In other news now, deposed Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife appeared in a Manhattan courtroom Monday to face federal drug and weapons charges. Maduro told the court he is innocent and he entered a not guilty plea. His defense now expected to challenge the legality of that operation that brought Maduro to the U.S. Joining us now for a legal analysis, Anna Kaminsky. She is a professor of law and director of criminal defense clinic at the New York Law School. Good to have you with us here. So Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia Flores pleading not guilty to all charges against them yesterday, including conspiracy to import cocaine and machine guns and conspiracy to commit narco-terrorism. So what exactly does the government have to prove to convict in a case like this?
So really what we're going to be looking for is how they're going to connect the defendants to the larger alleged conspiracy. So it can't just be allegations that there was a conspiracy. It can't just be that cocaine was moved from Venezuela into the United States, but you have to see a direct connection between the defendants and the criminal activity. And that's really what we're going to be looking for.
So do the defendants have a case that their arrest or transfer to the U.S. In custody was in some way unlawful? I know that's kind of the debate right now, the legality of this apprehension to begin with.
Right. This is really tricky. So I think if anything, where they potentially have an argument is actually going to be, excuse me, not with respect to the arrest itself and the way that the arrest was conducted, but rather with respect to whether or not they have what's called sovereign immunity. And that's really going to be one of the issues that we're going to see brought in front of the court, I would guess, quite quickly.
So, and what are your thoughts on that? You know, diplomatic immunity is something we have heard, for decades as it relates to various cases. But here it seems to be something that they, as you mentioned, are going to put front and center and quickly.
Right. So one of the issues for the defense is going to be that, the United States does not recognize him as a head of state, as an official leader. And so because of that, the argument that he was the leader and therefore should have sovereign immunity, of course, is going to be much more difficult if the United States government doesn't recognize him in that role. And generally speaking, the courts are going to look to what the federal government does or does not do in terms of that legitimacy and then follow that.
So the next court date now is set for March 17th. What procedural moves should we expect before then? Could they attempt to seek bail or some type of pretrial release, or is that something that's not? You talk about a flight risk. I would assume that might not happen, correct?
Right. So in terms of bail, the defense is taking this, looking at this in a smart way, which is at this point, there's really no chance that the court is going to grant bail. And so they're going to put their energy and their resources towards what matters. And that's things like developing this argument with respect to sovereign immunity, starting to get discovery from the government and looking through that. And you're talking about boxes and boxes and boxes, right? And terabytes worth of information that they're going to have to comb through. And so that's the work that we're going to start seeing happen between now and March. And then in March, I would expect that potentially we'll start hearing about motions and what that schedule will look like.
All right, Ms. Kaminsky, thank you very much. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll keep following the trial of Maduro and bring you the very latest information as we get it. We also have comprehensive reporting on everything you need to know about this case and what is next for Venezuela on CBSNewYork.com, as they now have an interim president there.